Hey everybody, welcome back to this series about weirs and waterfalls in Planet Coaster. In this video I thought I'd slow the time lapse to times 6 instead of times 12 so you can keep a little bit more of an eye on what's going on. And I started from completely flat terrain at 2 levels rather than beginning with the waterways already built. So you can see how the process of making the land bridge that the weir sits over works. So to kick off, you have to create the upper and lower water levels, and the terrain, you want to mess around with the terrain level using the flatten and smoothing tools a wee bit until you get the water levels to line up correctly with the terrain levels, because the water levels are not infinitely variable. They are set to set heights in the game. So a little bit of back and forward to mess around with that, and then I construct the lower water level, and then I construct the upper water level, and then start manipulating the land bridge between the two. Now what can quite often happen here is that the game will hang if you are nudging 2 water levels, 2 waterways, 2 water bodies closer and closer together, and then you try to use, you overdo it and one of the water bodies disappears, and then you have to use the undo to try and get back to the position you were in just before the water body disappeared. And if you do that over and over, then eventually the game does seem to hang. It doesn't completely hang. Some parts of the interface work and some parts don't, but you certainly can't proceed with your editing. So pretty much it's over, and you have to kill the game session from Task Manager and reload. So that did happen in this case, and I had to reload the game and proceed on. So what I'm doing is using the flattening tool, smoothing to a level tool, and then the smoothing over an area tool, or flatten to level and smooth over an area. And I just use those back and forward and the flatten to surface until slowly but surely that land bridge is whittled away down to about 2 meters across. I can't seem to get it under 2 meters without the water bodies disappearing permanently, so I just keep working on it until such time as the land bridge is as narrow as I can get it. And I'm using the flatten to surface, or flatten to level, and the flatten to surface, and push and pull to get it narrower and narrower and narrower, and then smoothing off rough edges that just don't look natural. So this can proceed for a wee while. Now something strange happens if you've got a reasonable amount of gap between the two, a height gap that is between the 2 water surfaces. You can kind of cut one under the other, which I'm not sure what the limits are on that. I haven't experimented with that completely, but that can happen. And then I was just experimenting with these logs to see what they look like, and once I was happy with that, I placed a few building pieces down to get a level, completely flatten the top of the weir so that it was as close to the upper water level surface as I could get it, and then start placing the logs in to create this log weir. So you can see you're just maneuvering things into position, and then we start in with the water jets and fountains. The fountains give you quite a good splashing effect, the water fountain special effect, and then you can use jets to create the appearance of the water moving over the top of the weir. So this is the process that once you've done a couple of these, I think you sort of get the hang of it. It becomes fairly natural to just try and get these things in. Usually start with a 45-degree angle there to get the water jets to look like they're flowing or arcing over the smooth surface of the logs, and use the copy function liberally. Now the thing about copying rows and rows of these things is that you end up with a very regular looking pattern of water flow, which of course is not natural at all, because water doesn't really do that unless the underlying object is incredibly regular, which wouldn't happen in the case of a weir. There would be all sorts of imperfections in the shape of the log and in the earth or rocks that have been put into the gap. So it's a good idea to maybe have 2 or 3 jets quite close together and then leave a bit of a gap and then have a few more and a bit of a gap, and have the gaps occurring somewhat randomly so it's not too regular when you then zoom out. You can also assist this effect later on by the positioning of rocks or plants, or messing with the terrain a little bit, just to disrupt the regularity of those water jets, because they do of course not look like natural flow, but they look like a water jet if you don't hide that or disguise that in some way. So while this video just unfolds, I might talk about what's happening with the other series I'm working on, which is the Manor Farm. I've already shown you the weir that I built in the little corner of the Manor Farm, which is really getting my eye in with the building types that I want to use there. And as the series unfolds, I'm going to be putting some rides in there. I'm going to have a ride through the hay paddock that gets a look over the weir and the watermill, and then dives down into some caves, and have a bit of a storyline on how the manor farm was founded by somebody who discovered a pirate grotto that had some treasure in it, or something like that. So a very slow kiddie coaster that goes round through the hay fields will then dive down into caves and go through a pirate grotto. And I'll have some forestry with a log flumes that will reflect sort of mining activity that might go on nearby the farm, and perhaps another ride as well. So that's what I'll be doing over there. So back to our Weir production. Where am I up to in the video now? So we've got our logs in place. We've got enough jets now that the water flow across the top of the weir looks pretty good. I'm messing around with the heights of some of the jets to try and make the flow not look quite so regular. Again, that's always something that makes it look weird to me, so I do mess around with that quite a bit. And another thing I want to do when I'm done with this weir is try something quite chaotic, like something perhaps like a beaver dam. Now, we don't have beavers where I live, so I'm going to be doing that really just from photos. I don't really know what a beaver dam looks like in real life, but I'll give that a try as just a jumble of logs, I think, is what I'll do there. And I want to try a weir that is like a stone bridge or a brickwork bridge with an arch in it, and the water flows through the arch, and that's going to help with the problem of it looking like the water's jumping over the gap in the middle, because of course if it's flowing through an arch it doesn't have to do the jumping through the gap trick. So I think that might look okay. We'll wait and see. And then lastly, I want to have a try at just a natural looking waterfall with just water just cascading down rocks. So I think a few other people have done that online, so I probably won't have too many tries at that, because I mean, I can just look on YouTube and find other videos to mimic on that. But I think getting the skills up for how to get these weirs looking right has been very useful for some of the plans I have for the park that I'm building. So I'm pretty happy with that. So where am I at here? I've got my logs in place, my log weir, and I'm decorating just using some rocks and plants. I find the ivy is quite good for giving you an appearance from a distance that it's not just plain polished clean logs. You know, they're a bit dirty, as logs would probably be if they'd been sitting in flowing water for any length of time. And I experiment with these bushes as well, embedded in the ground, so that it just looks like small plants poking up through the rocks or poking up through the logs themselves. Position some jets so that it looks like there's water leaking through the weir structure. You know, maybe there's water seeping through the rocks and the earth, and then just sort of finding ways to channel through and spout out through the wood. So adding a few of those at some point in the process. I think here I'm just adding lots of trees and rocks and expand. I made another video about decorating underwater. So I do find that a waterway looks pretty dull if the base of it is just mud or rock or grass, and when you sprinkle some of these leafy green bushes and things around, it really makes quite a difference to the corner of the eye realism of the waterway. I think if you stare at it too long you can tell it's a leafy green bush, but if you're a reasonable way away and looking at it from the kind of eye level of a guest, it does look pretty good. Okay, so I think we're nearly done with this video. There's perhaps a few more trees to go in to tidy the thing up, and where are we at? Yeah, I think that's about it. So in the next video I'll come back and have a go at a weir with an arch, I think will be the next one, and then after that I'll have a go at a beaver dam, and then finally finish up with just a rocky waterfall, and then I will proceed with the Manor Farm video series and spend a fair bit of time fleshing that out. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye bye.